Moving into now 3:30, and I want to introduce really rapidly here Philip PJ Haney III, CEO of Haney Farms LLC. Haney Farms um, is a CEO here in Reedsville, Virginia, a fifth generation minority farmer. More commonly known as PJ, graduated from Northumberland High School, Heathville, Virginia in June of 1995. While in high school, Haney served as vice president of his Futures Farmers of America chapter and actively worked on his family farm in Reedsville, Virginia. Haney graduated from Virginia Tech with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Agriculture and Applied Economics in May 1999. While attending Virginia Tech, he served as president of the Virginia Tech Manners, which is Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resource, and Related Sciences. We also are happy to be able to share with our audiences that PJ Haney, as a minority farmer and the leader that you just heard of in terms of his youth background in college, is now also and has been for several years the chairman of the National Black Growers Council. PJ, we're very happy to have you hop off the combine long enough to say hello to us and to share with us some of your work realities, your life realities as a minority farmer. And we're happy to have you from a distance be so close and join us on this first ever Innovation in Agriculture Opportunity Zone Summit. You, of all people who were there in the beginning, can appreciate this day and this moment in time. So thank you for joining us.
I appreciate it. Appreciate all the hard work you put into making this happen. So thanks again.
We are also going to be on your panel with J.R. Baggerty from the MBDA. Just heard from his boss, the National Director, David Byrd, and it has been an encouragement, PJ, along the journey to find someone like JR and his excitement and knowledge of technology and access to capital, two things that are center points for our ongoing conversations as to what needs to happen for the 21st century farmer. PJ, we're going to give you as much room as you need in this hour segment to tell us about the life of a farmer, and I'm going to be able to, as your moderator and one who will advance Q&A for the audience, help develop a conversation of what we all need to know to be able to help make a minority farmer in particular in this environment more profitable, give the opportunity for more scalability, and tell us a little bit about your own history so that all of our audience can appreciate who you are and what work you do.
Well, thank you, Keith. Thank you for the introduction. Appreciate your comments. Just so you know, I didn't hop off the combine. I just parked it for this call. I'm still sitting on it right now.
Okay, very good.
Greetings to everyone from the farm fields of rural America. My name is PJ Haney, and as Keith said, I'm a fifth generation grain farmer from Virginia. My father and I grow corn, soybeans, wheat, barley, and rapeseed. I also have the pleasure, as Keith noted, of serving as chairman of the National Black Growers Council, an organization whose mission is to improve the efficiency, productivity, and sustainability of Black row crop farmers. I appreciate you joining in this session and having me here today.
Well, PJ, we could
on our farm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say,
Go ahead.
on our farm, we grow the crops that we do because this is our way of life. We till the soil, we fertilize the land, we plant seeds, apply needed herbicides and insecticides to protect our crops in an effort to feed you, the consumer. You know, food security is a very serious and very important issue. It is important because it is important because it is the one thing that connects us all. Regardless of race, religion, where you live, your age, or even your political affiliation, food connects us all. And there is no culture without agriculture. Regardless if you're 2 days old or 102 years old, we all need to take nourishment multiple times a day. You know, the agricultural community right now is currently feeding 7 billion people globally per day. The ag community is charged with the demand to increase our production to feed a growing population that is projected to reach 9 billion by the year 2050. Ladies and gentlemen, in order for us to continue to have the luxury of multiple choices at the grocery store, spending as little as we do on food, we need to continue to make sure we invest and appreciate agriculture and what the farmers that feed, clothe, and fuel America do. You know, 2020 has been a year for us all to remember. During this pandemic, there were many things that we discontinued from our daily routines. Family, religious and social activities, eating out. But the one thing that we did not stop to do was eat. Regardless of where you were, what traveling you may have dismayed, what plans you may have canceled, what family you did not see, food security is a serious and important topic because we need to make sure we support the farmers who feed and fuel America. So at this time, Keith, I'd love to answer any questions, continue to dive a little deeper just on that topic of what we do, but I just didn't want to take up too much time, so thank you.
Thank you, PJ. And listen, I've seen you in various locations around the country enough to know your passion and your clear articulation of your livelihood. And I've seen you on poster boards on highways in Mississippi as to this is what an American farmer looks like. I want to engage the audience as we get Jean Robert Baggerty and JR. I'm so sorry for hyphenating the word, your name. There's power in the name. But I'm happy to bring you two together online like this because this is literally the introduction that I wanted to make probably 4 months ago, maybe right before the pandemic. And I think we need to recognize the time of this conversation and the 360 and the progress being made in spite of and in light of the disruption of all of our lives. I think it's a historic and important moment in time where we need to have a conversation that carries over the next 5 years.
I can't get online, man. I'm trying to call in. I can't get on.
Yeah, I'm gonna include you now.
I called the conference line.
Hold on.
Not letting me in.
I'm just gonna include you right here.
Okay, you're in, JR. You know, do me a favor, Mel. Let him in, as the song says.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, JR. Yes. Good afternoon. I'm going to. I'm tremendous now that you're on the line. We're PJ Haney, meet Jean Robert Baggerty, someone that you won't be just talking to on this public line on the first historic Innovation in Agriculture and Energy Opportunity Zone Summit, but carrying our conversations beyond this. Okay. He's gonna, what I was saying is that the importance of figuring out here and now, for the record, PJ, in a pandemic environment, and what is the issues, the challenges that you face as the voice of minority farmers, and how can we help is the mission of this conversation. And we're going to be intentional about it. We're going to record it. You know that we have some activity that hopefully will allow more U.S. farmers to grow here and sell and teach and train so that people can be fed and so people can eat and have the basic essentials. So can you tell us, PJ, in your own words of day-to-day experience, what is the dealio? What is the challenges, and how, and we will figure out how we can help. Apologize for the echo. PJ?
I think I heard you. There's a lot of backbeat, but I think I'd like to first start by letting the audience know that we need to realize that Black farmers are almost at the face of extinction. You know, we need to recognize that we need to do our part to help. Can you hear me, Keith?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. You're in good shape.
Thank you. And I would say we need to do our part to make sure we support Black farmers and landowners. We encourage our youth and make sure they are aware of and understanding all the needs of agriculture. You know, Black farmers at present day in row crop production, and I'm talking about corn, cotton, peanuts, soybeans, these commodities that feed and fuel America. Black farmers are very few and far between. And it's not because it rained on the white farmer side of the road and it didn't rain on the Black farmer side of the road and the Black farmers went out of business. There are a lot of historical inequities that really help define why Black farmers have declined. A little bit of statistics. In 1920, there were 1 million Black farmers in the country compared to 4 million white farmers, a 4-to-1 ratio. In 1996, statistics showed that there were less than 15,000 Black farmers in the country compared to over 1 million white farmers, which is a 100-to-1 ratio. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not because Black farmers didn't know how to grow crops and till the soil and plant seeds. It's something we've done all our lives. But the inequities of offerings and opportunities for land, access to capital, to equipment, those are what put the wedge in the dividing numbers between Black and white. I would encourage everyone to make sure they recognize who they are and what they have. Most families of Black and brown communities come from the South. These families still own land, have a homestead, a family place that they have since moved from. I think it's important if we look back to ask ourselves the question, what am I doing with what I have inherited? Is that land generating any income for their family? Is that land serving as a money tree for the future generations to come? If it's not suitable for crops, is it growing cattle? If it's not suitable for cattle, is it growing timber? What is the land that you own doing to provide means for you, your family, and your future generations to come? So,
How you doing?
the organization in which I currently have the pleasure of chairing is the National Black Growers Council. And it's an organization that's there to help people foster solutions, to help increase the downward number, to reverse the downward trend of Black farmers and landowners in this country. So I'd encourage everyone to look that organization up. Feel free to be a resource to understand and learn and help you to navigate some thoughts and ideas that you may have for your own family. The next is when we talk about the future, Keith, we have to make sure we have to plant a seed for something to grow. We all have youth and young talent in our families. And I would really encourage everyone to showcase agriculture. There are a lot of opportunities in the field of agriculture, not just farming as I am and planting and harvesting, but there's so much to offer in science and chemistry, research and development, engineering, automation, technology, IT. This combine I'm sitting in right now, when it needs a software update, it's remotely done through the sky, through a satellite receiver on the roof. Technology has brought things so far from where my father and grandfather and great-grandfather started. And it's an opportunity for our community to really be indulged in agriculture a little bit deeper. I hope I answered your question there, Keith.
Yes, I have a quick question for you, Mr. Haney. Joyce Matthews with Fairfax High or Fairfax County Schools. She's asking a question about what innovations have you seen in farming during your time in farming with your dad and grandparents?
Thank you for asking. This year marks my 21st crop graduating from college. During my time as a younger lad, I would ride on the fender of the tractor with my dad. Open cab tractor, no air conditioning, no heat, no radio. As the sun went down, he couldn't see how to hold his row as he was planting, so he had to stop. While I was in college, technology really started to advance itself, and automation started to come to the equipment where satellite guidance was an option. GPS receivers mounted on the cabs of tractors and combines and sprayers allow this equipment to drive itself down the field just as accurately at midnight as it is midday at noon.
Wow.
So technology has been the largest and greatest advancement, I say, in agriculture. My grandfather would apply fertilizer to the field, and he would apply 100 pounds of potash to the entire field based on an average composite soil sample. Now we're farming per acre, and some acres may only get 100 pounds, some acres may only get 25, depending on what the soil fertility requirements of that grid on the farm needs. So we're trying to be good stewards of the land. We're trying to use more sustainable farming practices. But technology is really the tool in the toolbox now that we have, Melvin, that allows us to do that more efficiently.
Very good.
So I'm going to bring JR on from an MBDA perspective now that he has heard everything. But I want to leave this question ultimately to the audience, to most of all PJ to be responsible for answering, and also JR.
Okay.
The decline of Black farmers at a rate that you just described and a level, PJ, is well, let's just say it's inequitable. It's unbelievable. And the importance of food, no matter what color you are, should be something that is an opportunity created for all, especially for those who want to. With technology driving new opportunities to advance agriculture growth and production, where is manufacturing? Because that is a real growth opportunity for minority farmers, row croppers, it would seem to be. Is there resistance to that, or is there an interest in the how-to? Just show us how. We can tell you what we can do given what we grow if you put us together with the blank, blank, blank. Fill in the blanks, and please answer that from your perspective.
Well, I don't know that manufacturing would be the key. I do think that value added would be a component, and manufacturing is an extension of that. So in row crop production, right now I'm on the combine harvesting soybeans. These soybeans are shipped off and they're crushed for soybean oil, and they're used for soybean meal. I don't necessarily want to be into the manufacturing of corn and of soybeans for soybean oil, but I do have interested in trying to get more value for what I do. The old saying is, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to figure out how I can take the next step to be a minority supplier. How can I get a contract to do something for more value and higher up the food chain than what we're currently doing? You know, as farmers, we buy retail. A bag of seed corn costs me $350, and I'm selling wholesale for $3.50 a bushel. The challenge that I have is today I'm receiving the same prices for corn, wheat, and soybeans as my grandfather did 40 years ago.
Wow.
Granddaddy's combine cost him $40,000. Mine cost over $400. So we have to rely on the research and development to give us varieties of corn and soybeans that will increase their yield, hybrids that will have more disease and defensive resistant packages, so we're not susceptible to these weather scarities that we're having and crops that can handle more drought stress than others. So I would say that if the consumers would recognize what we do, and everyone from their jobs behind their computers with their various companies and organizations recognize that Black farmers exist, and we need to be included in the diversity plans. We need to be included in the purchasing. That's where we really could use some help, Keith.
JR, you're the man.
All right.
I'll introduce you later.
With farming, probably one of the biggest things, of course, it takes investment to increase crop production. It's not for all crops is vertical farming. So vertical farming will help solve that problem of, you can do your crop production year round. Basically, it's not affected by weather. You can better use the space, less water usage. It's environmental friendly. No chemicals or pesticides. It's energy efficient, and a lot of it, you use LED lights. Safe for staff, and it has, low cost labor. And so, you can hire folks. And then the other thing, obviously, would be, the use of artificial intelligence and blockchain technology just to speed up the distribution network and logistics and everything. So those are two of the things in terms of, innovational enhancements that can help, improve your production. Now, of course, it does require some investment, but it's a way to, bring the business up into the newest century.
So JR, what I wouldn't, so thank you for that. I think though that what I'm hearing PJ say is that they need to be bought into the supply chain, and I can appreciate that. One of PJ and I's first experiences together was I brought him down to the Minority Supplier Diversity conference in Austin, Texas, and I remember having some tremendous conversations, and frankly, all I need to do is get PJ in front of some people, and he could sell shoes to a shoemaker, and he knows his craft. So I also heard National Director Bird talk about, I guess 70% of your MBDA success is unbeknownst to most in the commercial market. So can we create an aggressive supply chain engagement on behalf of minority farmers? Would that not be one of the first steps?
That absolutely could be. I mean, as Angela said, Angela Washington, my colleague, and you heard David Birthday also, the director. In terms of agriculture, I mean, I think it's a huge opportunity because, you know, even in all of my years of banking and dealing with minority businesses and government, I don't see that many you know, minority farmers. And where I really learned about agriculture when I was working at the Export-Import Bank. So I mean, that's very, very viable space, you know, bulk agricultural, to Africa, to developing countries, to the Caribbean. You know, the USAID, there's a lot of tenders that comes out there, also the United Nations. And so there's a lot of that people can be, you know, introduced to. So we just, you know, need to get the supply chain going and get you introduced to some folks, and our agency can help, you know, scale up. But as I said, you know, this is not a new venture, but it's an area that we really don't see so much in. So, you know, as businesses pivot and everything, you know, we're looking for new growth areas to support. And so with USDA and BOA, I mean, we've got some good partners that can, you know, make this really, really work for you. So we're looking forward to it.
How about yes, PJ?
You mentioned Texas when we went to that conference, the National Minority Supplier, and I remember that like yesterday in Austin. And the one thing that I was attempting to talk to someone at Johnson & Johnson,
right,
a company that uses cotton. And at the time, I planted over 2,000 acres of cotton that year. And I was trying to figure out how to connect the dots to become a minority supplier to a company that utilized and manufactured cotton. But all I got was lip service out of that and no follow-up. And here it is 2 years later, and I'm still selling the cotton the same way that I've been doing it. So unless there's some help from a federal side, unless there's some push to give these companies incentives to buy from Black growers, we're still going to get the same old that we've always got.
So now I understand that conversation, and not only because I was there and the work that we do, but I also want to throw in the fact that we are dealing with Amazon over at MBDA. Was that Whole Foods? Jeff Bezos?
Sure.
So this might be a historic summit and conversation that carries over to some contractual commitments during an age where we do want to advance diversity and innovation. And I would like to be able to set up a meeting, whether it's with Jeff Bezos or his procurement, folks, only because MBDA has that relationship online. If we start to integrate technology off the field, PJ, may be one of the areas where minority farmers in the declining numbers as we move out of the 20th century and go into the 21st century, we might need to, on the other end, make sure that there are farmers there who will come to the table ready to do business with the Whole Foods. So there's an assessment process that really needs to take place on the readiness. And I know that you're ready, PJ, and you just need to lead us from a national minority, Black Growers Council perspective, that you have others that are ready to work with MBDA. I think we have something here on record to move out on. What do you think?
Yes. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gerald.
I was just going to ask, how many companies are in the growers in the council? How many? I mean, it's a trade association. I mean, how many? We could probably, I'm thinking maybe set up some sort of financing facility, and then plug you in with maybe the federal procurement center. Try to get some contracts that way. There's some things we can do. And then
go ahead. No, I was going to say that their farmers. The footprint of the National Black Growers Council is pretty much the southeast portion of the United States and over to the Delta, as far west as Texas. Areas where you have higher concentrations of Black farmers and Black landowners. Virginia, down to Florida, over to Texas, across the whole Gulf, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, as far north as Kentucky. But we have to be mindful. We are grain farmers. The corn that we raise doesn't go to Whole Foods and sit on the shelf. It's not sweet corn. The corn that we raise gets ground and feed to chickens. You know, the produce business in which you're referring to for corn and sweet corn, it's a very niche business. The good old boys have kind of got that on lock. And one component is if you do not have irrigation, if you do not have land that is improved so you can irrigate your crops, you cannot afford the investment that you would have to make in a field of sweet corn and pray on rain like we do. So that's one of the real reasons that a lot of minority black and brown farmers aren't in the produce business, because we have not been given the same access to irrigation components and land leveling and the same thing as our neighbors across the road, so our farms can't produce what their farms can do. You know, I wouldn't mind spending that $1,000+ an acre on investment for sweet corn if I knew I had the irrigation and the market to support that. But in the words of my father with produce, son, if you don't sell it, you smell it. So that is something that we've veered away from, and we've focused on grain, something that has a longer shelf life and something that can give us more options of marketing. Okay? Okay.
Now I hear something there. I hear something there, JR. I mean, I'm gonna let you go, but do you hear what I hear? Is the question? Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to figure out the niche here and then build it up.
It's called opportunity zones. And to PJ, before you hang up the phone, because there has to be progress in life. We just had, and it's recorded, so it's okay. It will be heard again and again in the right places at the right time. But we had a nationally recognized knowledge leader of opportunity zones on our first panel. It was first panel. No, second panel. She will be on tomorrow. Agriculture, and she comes from a family of farmers, passionate about the agriculture, which actually was a bridge that we crossed over together and bonded. She spoke to that. Let me say this. There are eligibilities in the irrigation and equipment and factors that I'm not sure that the minority farmers understand well enough to know that what you're speaking could turn into an existence. And that's what the intentionality here is for us. So tell me what your thinking is on that, just on initial thoughts. Opportunity zone funding, qualified opportunity zones, access to capital and investment, developers, matched with public funding.
That sounds great.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Okay. All right. Bingo.
It beats the options we have on the table right now. I'll put it that way.
That's ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, I'm testifying here that is a accomplishment from on high, and because PJ and I have spent enough time for me to fully appreciate what he just said. Thank you for that, sir. JR, go ahead.
All right. So Keith, as you know, you and I, we talked about this, and so PJ, speaking about opportunity zones, let me just throw this out there. The U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix, and St. Thomas have 2 opportunity zones. I mean, Puerto Rico is also there too, but we're going to talk about Virgin Islands and the taxation benefits for investors. So there's a lot of caveats: 90% reduction in corporate tax, 90% reduction in personal income tax, 100% exemption on excise, property taxes, et cetera. And so eligible activities include rum production, of course, milk and dairy, but also manufacturing or export operations for agriculture and food processing. So, that might be something we look at later on, as we scale up, but I just wanted to throw that out there. That's the prime opportunity zone, obviously, the weather and the climate and everything. I mean, notwithstanding hurricanes, but, would be very good for agriculture, or even exports to other areas of the Caribbean. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, also let me hit that what you throw. While we're talking about the devastation that happened over there with the hurricane, well, all of their infrastructure needed to be rebuilt. The biggest thing would be feed to support the livestock that they have over there. So if it's USAID, whoever would be the humanitarian agency that says, hey, we've got this much livestock feed on hand in a warehouse, we can deploy planes within 72 hours to help that agricultural realization for that distressed community, Black farmers could help supply that. So finding the individuals that are even in government procurement that could help identify those agricultural opportunities would be immense for us.
Okay.
Row crop farmers.
Okay. All right. We've got that coming. Foreign FAS, USDA, Foreign Agricultural Service. We got a partnership with them. And so as we begin to build out this agriculture initiative, I mean, we'll be looking for all sorts of, opportunities like that. I know that.
Hey, JR, if I could share one thing with you. Yeah. One thing, when we talk about foreign ag service and we talk about exporting and, people want grain shipped all over the world. The big boys, okay, so if you want me to ship grain to another country, I say, sure, no problem. My farm is here in Virginia. So I've got to take grain from my farm to a port-side loaded facility. Then I've got to pay the large companies to transload that grain from my facility. So I'm not able to step right off the land onto the boat. You understand what I'm saying?
Understood. Yeah.
There's something that's needed to even help in an international grain marketing platform from a large bulk scale. Now, if we're talking niche containerized shipments, sure, I can bring a container to my farm and I can load it with about 1,000 bushels of corn or soybeans or wheat and send that container to the port. And Black farmers across the South could do that. But the problem, everyone says, well, when you start looking at containerized, that gets away from large bulk and the price per unit goes up. Well, that's true. But that's the only way I can get into an international marketing platform because I don't own a port-side facility where I can have 500,000 bushels of corn or soybeans or wheat stored to load onto an ocean freighter to ship out of the other countries.
Opportunity zones. Opportunity zones.
Cargills, ADM, Bungies, those are the companies that are in that space, and they keep the little boys like me out of that. So be mindful, but we need solutions.
Okay.
So JR, before I introduce you to the audience, let me just, this is one of those things where, as in client work, where you work with a small business who's navigating their way into the nuances of complicated society of government contracting. Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands would not be considered a connecting opportunity for USAID as an example, for the reason that those are U.S. territories, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So
in the instance of USDI, you use it as a passive export out to other countries. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Jean-Robert Bagady, Access to Capital Team Lead for the Office of Business Development and the Minority Business Development Agency, United States Department of Commerce. Mr. Bagady is a Haitian American and has over 20 years of experience in commercial banking, international trade, finance, and venture capital. He is a certified blockchain specialist, holds a BBA, I don't even know what that is, so I'm sorry, in finance, in Howard University. He's a bison, and an MBA in international finance banking from George Washington University. Prior to joining MBDA, Mr. Bagady worked at the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Investments as an investment analyst, managing and funding the day-to-day operations of a $1.2 billion portfolio comprised of 26 small business investment companies engaged in venture capital and private equity. Jean-Robert worked for several years at the U.S. Export-Import Bank as a loan officer and business development officer in the following divisions: U.S. credit insurance, structured export finance, export credit insurance. John Robert also spent time in private commercial banking sector working as a commercial loan officer at Navy Federal Credit Union Industrial Bank and National, which is a minority-owned bank, right? And National Rural Utilities Cooperative Finance Corporation. PJ, if there was ever an individual who understood your reality of financial pain and prospects, I would put a few of my shekels of confidence into this young man here, and I'm so happy that we are working with him and MBDA and you and Haney Farms, and as a result, we feel that there's hope on the horizon, not clouds in the blue sky, but we will work intentionally to move the needle, and we'll do it weekly, monthly, until we get to the place where we need to be. That's my commitment to you and KDM, from KDM. On behalf of Innovation in Agriculture and Energy Summit, PJ, congratulations, we made it. We've been to several settings to get to this place, but it's in the books. And I thank you for being a part of it and my inspiration personally and professionally.
Thank you, Keith. Appreciate all your effort, your hard work. Thank you both, and I just wanted to say I really appreciate all the support, and we're looking forward to working with you, PJ and Keith. Thank you so much for this. I know you've been wishing for this for a while, so glad to see it come to fruition.
Amen.